Welcome everyone. Today we are heading to the Mediterranean and to one of the most historically rich and naturally beautiful islands in the whole of Greece, Rhodes, the largest of the Dodecanese islands, sitting at the southeastern corner of the Aegean Sea just off the coast of Turkey. An island where ancient Greeks, medieval crusaders, Ottoman sultans and Italian colonists all left their mark in stone, layered on top of one another across 3,000 years of continuous habitation. An island of dramatic hilltop castles and crystal clear coves, of ancient acropoli and hidden forest springs, of dazzling medieval architecture and some of the finest beaches in the eastern Mediterranean. Here are the 8 best places to visit in Rhodes. I recently did a video on the 7 best places to visit in Rhodes, so these 8 will be more off of the beaten track and hopefully less well known and therefore better experiences, so enjoy. A short distance north of Monolithos along the western coast, another knight's fortification crowns a hilltop above the village of Cretinia, and while it is less dramatic in its physical situation than Monolithos, it has an atmosphere that many visitors find even more compelling. Cretinia Castle dates from the 15th century and was constructed as a relay point in the defensive chain that allowed visual communication between the coastal castles and Rhodes town. From Cretinia, signals could be passed northward toward the capital and southward towards Monolithos. The castle is substantially ruined. The walls are largely intact on the seaward side, but the interior has collapsed considerably, and this state of romantic ruin gives it a character that more restored sites sometimes lack. The views from Cretinia are among the best on the western coast. The offshore islands of Alamia, Halki and Makri are clearly visible on a fine day, and the coastline below winds northward towards Camaros in a series of rocky headlands and hidden coves. Cretinia is the kind of place where you can sit for a long time on a warm stone, look out at the sea and feel the heat and light and the history of this place as a whole. Now we turn to the beaches, and Rhodes has some magnificent ones. Aya Agathi is one of the finest on the island and one of the least spoiled. Located on the east corner near the village of Charaki, Aya Agathi is a crescent of fine pale sand sheltered by low headlands on either side and backed by low scrubby hills rather than development. The water here is exceptionally clear, the kind of clear that makes the seabed visible in detail at considerable depth. The beach is not entirely unknown, but it is reached by a road that winds down from the village and is not easily stumbled upon, which keeps it considerably quieter than the famous beaches closer to Rhodes town. There is also a small beach bar, nothing elaborate, just providing the essentials. What makes Aya Agathi particularly lovely is its scale. It is large enough to find space even on a busy summer day, but small enough to feel intimate rather than resort-like. The headlands on either side invite exploration, hiding small coves that can be reached by only swimming or scrambling, and the clarity of the water makes swimming there a genuine pleasure. A few kilometers south of Rhodes town on the east coast, in a bay of unusual beauty, the Calafia Springs complex is one of the most distinctive attractions on the island, a place that combines natural thermal waters, extraordinary architecture, and one of the loveliest stretches of coastline in the north of Rhodes. The springs at Calafia have been valued since antiquity. Ancient writers, including Hippocrates himself, recommended the mineral waters here for their therapeutic properties. In the 1920s and 1930s, during the Italian administration of the Dodecanese, the Italian authorities built an elaborate spa complex around the springs in a style that fused Moorish, Art Deco and Mediterranean architecture into something entirely its own. The domed rotunda, the colonnaded terraces, the mosaic floors and ornamental fountains, all built from the warm, local limestone in tones of ochre and cream, create a setting of theatrical beauty. The springs themselves ceased to flow in the mid-20th century, but the complex has been beautifully restored and now operates as a beach club and cultural venue. The beach at Calafia is rocky rather than sandy, but the water is clear and calm, and the combination of swimming in such an extraordinary architectural setting is an experience unlike any other on the island. The complex has also served as a filming location over the years, most famously for scenes in the 1961 film The Guns of Navarone, and walking through the domed halls and along the sea terraces, it is easy to understand why filmmakers were drawn to it. A short distance further south along the east coast from Calafia, the coastline becomes more rugged and the bays smaller and more secluded, and it is here that you find one of the most beautiful spots on Rhodes. Ladico Bay is a small sheltered cove of rock and crystal water tucked below a pine-covered headland. The bottom is mostly flat rock and pebble, and the water above is of extraordinary clarity and colour. Just around the headland from Ladico lies the bay usually called Anthony Quinn Bay, named for the famous actor who fell so in love with Rhodes during the filming of The Guns of Navarone that he reportedly purchased land in the area. The name is not official, the actual bay has its own Greek name, but it has stuck firmly in tourist imagination. Both bays are most rewarding early in the morning before the excursion boats arrive, or in late afternoon when they have departed. The pine-covered paths between them are pleasant to walk, and the combination of the two coves, each with a slightly different character, makes for a very satisfying few hours. This stretch of east coast, with its combination of rocky headlands, clear water and pine-scented air, is Rhodes at its most naturally beautiful. For a completely different beach experience, we return to the northern tip of the island, to Ely Beach. Ely Beach runs along the northeast coast of Rhodes Town, from the medieval walls of Old Town northward to the tip of the island at Cape Agios Stephanos. It is a long, wide beach of fine gravel and sand, lined with beach clubs and sunbeds, backed by hotels and the esplanade of the new town, and facing open sea to the north and east. Ely is not a secret or a secluded spot, it is a proper, lively Mediterranean beach scene. In summer it is busy, colourful and animated. What makes Ely particularly enjoyable is its convenience and its character. You can walk here from anywhere in the old town in minutes. The water is clean and calm, with a shallow gradient, making it safe for children. There is also a wonderful Art Deco Lido building at the northern end of Ely, the Ely Club, built during the Italian period, and continues to function as a swimming and social venue. We now travel to the very southern tip of Rhodes. Prassenissi, the name that means island in Greek, is the southernmost point of Rhodes, and it is one of the most unusual natural features on the island. On the eastern side of the narrow sandy strip, the Aegean Sea is sheltered and calm, a shallow, turquoise lagoon of flat water ideal for swimming and paddling. On the western side, the Mediterranean is open and exposed to the prevailing southwesterly winds, and it is regularly rough, with strong, consistent winds and rolling waves that make Prassenissi one of the most premier windsurfing and kitesurfing destinations in Europe. The contrast is remarkable. You can stand on the sandy beach with calm water on your left and breaking waves on your right, separated by no more than a few meters. In winter and spring, when the winds are strongest, Prasonisi draws professional windsurfers from across the continent. In summer, when the winds ease slightly, the beach is popular with swimmers and sunbathers on the eastern side. The drive to Prasonisi through the southern interior of Rhodes is itself a pleasure. The landscape becomes increasingly wild and empty as you head south, with olive groves and scrubland replacing the tourist infrastructure of the coast. The village of Catavia, just before the beach, is a traditional Rhodian settlement that feels a world away from the resorts of the north. Prasonisi is elemental, wind, sand, and the meeting of two seas. It is a wonderful place to feel the full geographic drama of being at the tip of an island. From the coast back into the interior to one of the most enchanting natural spots on Rhodes, tucked away in the forested hills above the east coast town of Columbia. Seven Springs is a wooded valley where 7 natural freshwater springs emerge from the hillside and converge into a single stream that feeds a small reservoir a little way down the valley. The springs were harnessed during the Italian period to provide water for the Columbia development on the east coast, and the reservoir and its dam date from that era. The springs create a microclimate of extraordinary lushness in what is otherwise a dry, sun-baked island. The valley is dense with plane trees, poplars, and reeds, and the combination of shade, running water, and birdsong makes it feel genuinely cool even in the height of summer. Peacocks roam the site throughout. To reach the reservoir, you have a choice. You can follow the path along the outside of the valley, through the trees, and along the bank of the stream, or you can take the tunnel route, a narrow, unlit water channel just high enough to walk through, where the sound of trickling water surrounds you and the darkness is complete until the light of the reservoir appears ahead. It is slightly claustrophobic, entirely memorable, and children love it. Absolutely. Seven Springs is refreshing in every sense, definitely worth being on your list. For our final destination, we return to Monte Smith, the ancient Acropolis hill above Rhodes town, but this time not for the ruins or the history. This time we come for what happens in the last hour of the day. The western orientation of Monte Smith means it faces directly into the setting sun, and the sunsets from its summit are among the finest in the whole of the Aegean. The hill rises high enough to give an unobstructed view over the sea to the west, and in the evenings, particularly in summer and early autumn, the sky above the Turkish coast performs in extraordinary colour. Oranges, pinks, deep reds and purples succeed each other as the sun drops toward and below the horizon. In the foreground, the reconstructed columns of the Temple of Apollo catch the last light and glow warmly against the deepening sky behind them. Below, the old town and the harbours begin to light up as darkness approaches. The sound of the city drifts up faintly, bells, music, the hum of summer evenings, and the sea stretches away to the west in bands of colour that change by the minute. The Monte Smith sunset is free, it is accessible, and it is one of those simple pleasures that travel sometimes delivers with unexpected perfection. Come an hour before sunset, bring something to sit on, watch the light change over the Aegean. It is, in the best possible way, ideal to end a day in Rhodes. And there we have it. Thank you for watching, and wherever you go, safe travels.